Target Practice. London, December 1884. The dartboard hangs precariously on a wall in the study, between tall bookcases and ornately framed oil paintings. It is almost camouflaged in the shadows despite its bold pattern, but the knife reaches its target each and every time it is thrown. Very near the bullseye that is obscured by the newspaper clipping pinned to the board. The clipping is a theatrical review, an article carefully removed from the London Times. It is a positive review, some might call it glowing. Nevertheless, it has been put in this position of execution, and the silver-handled knife is being thrown at it. The knife slices through the paper and sinks into the cork of the dartboard. It is retrieved and removed, only to have the process repeated again. The knife is being thrown gracefully from the handle, so it rotates over and over perfectly until the tip of the blade finds its mark. By Chandras Christophe Lefebvre, whose name is imprinted in clear typeset letters in the last line of the aforementioned newspaper clipping. The sentence that holds his name is the particular one that has incensed Monsieur Lefebvre to the point of knife-throwing. A single sentence that reads thusly: Monsieur Chandras Christophe Lefebvre continues to push the boundaries of the modern stage, dazzling his audiences with spectacle that is almost transcendent. Most theatrical producers would likely be flattered by such a remark. They would clip the article for a scrapbook of reviews, quote it for references and referrals. But not this particular theatrical producer. No, Monsieur Chandras Christophe Lefebvre instead focuses on that penultimate word. Almost. Almost. The knife flies again across the room, over furniture of velvet and intricately carved wood, passing perilously close to a crystal decanter of brandy. It somersaults swiftly, handle over blade, and finds itself buried in the dartboard once again. This time it pierces the now nearly shredded paper in between the words audiences and spectacle, obscuring the width completely. Chandras follows in the wake of the knife, pulling the blade from the board carefully, but with a fair amount of force. He walks back across the room, knife in one hand, a glass of brandy in the other, and turns swiftly on his heel, letting the knife fly once more, aiming for that horrible word, almost. Clearly he must be doing something wrong. If his productions are merely almost transcendent, then the possibility of true transcendence exists somewhere nearby, waiting to be attained, then there is something else that must be done. He has been pondering this ever since the review was placed on his desk, neatly clipped and labeled by his assistant. Additional copies have been filed elsewhere for posterity and safekeeping, as the desk copies often meet such gruesome fates while Chandras agonizes over every word. Chandras relishes reactions, genuine reactions, not mere polite applause. He often values the reactions over the show itself. A show without an audience is nothing after all. In the response of the audience, that is where the power of performance lies. He was raised in the theater, sitting in boxes at the ballet. Being a restless child, he quickly grew bored with the familiarity of the dances, and chose instead to watch the audiences, to see when they smiled and gasped, when the women sighed, and when the men began to nod off. So perhaps it is not terribly surprising that now, many years later, he still has more interest in the audience than in the performance itself, though the performance must be spectacular in order to coerce the best reactions. And because he is incapable of observing the faces of every audience member at every performance of every show, shows that range from compelling drama to exotic dancing girls, and a few that creatively combine the two, he relies on the reviews. Though there has not been a review in some time that vexes him the way that this particular one does, and certainly not one in years that provoked knife-throwing. The knife flies once again, this time piercing the word stage. Chandras goes to retrieve it, sipping his brandy on the way. He regards the nearly decimated article curiously for a moment, peering at the almost illegible words. Then he bellows for Marco.